Apyayantu mamangani vak pranashchakshushrotramatho balamindriyani chasarvani sarvam brahma upanishadam maham brahma nirakuryam Mama Brahma Nirakarot Anirakaranam Astvanirakaranam Me Astu Tadatmani Nirate Upanishatsu Dharmaste Mayi Santu Te Mayi Santu Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So this presence is the substratum which remains exactly the same as it always did. And how is this substratum known? Directly. We started out, first session, Swataha Siddhaha. In other words, it is self-evident. Again, nobody in this world needs to know what I am. You already know that you are. The issue is, I don't know what is it that I am. In other words, this is adhyasa, confusion. And the confusion is being mixed in with this I am. I am my life, my concern, I am my aging, I am my forgetfulness, I am, see, all of these things, forgetfulness, aging, they were not there once upon a time. So they're all asadharana, they're all uncommon. So what knowledge means, what liberation means, is just having clarity. What is it that is constant right now, and what is it, in fact, you don't need to know what is it that's changing. We all know what's changing. But the real question is, what is it, and how clear am I with that which is constant right now? Because it is you. How can you not be in touch with yourself? Well, because of adhyasa. Because we've always been in touch with not self. The body, the mind, the asadharana, the changes, the sounds, concerns. Therefore, this substratum is directly known to you as I am. No need to philosophize about this. Yeah, but I've heard this about I am, I heard that. Stop. This is all the mind trying to make it more complex. It's supposed to be very simple. It's supposed to be easy. Who was it once that Einstein said he was shown a formula by another scientist, and someone asked him, is this true? And he said no. And why? Why not? Because it's too complex. It's just too much complexities there. In other words, something simple was being shown, but it was made into one huge, big, complex thing. And he instantly recognized something so simple cannot be this complex. It's just not right. It's the same thing here. I am is the most simplest, ordinary, effortless. How much effort does it take to remember the color of your door right now? Come on, effort, please. Yeah, hold on, wait. Yeah, got it. Okay? No, really, it's effort, right? Mm-hmm. How much effort does it take to know that you are, that you exist, that you're conscious right now? Really, it's just totally effortless. In other words, the most effortless is you. Why? Because it is the nearest, the closest. It is you. You understand this? The most effortless is I am. You don't need to ask, what do you mean by that, Andre? What do you mean I am? I mean, of course, the mind can step in and start to philosophize. We've seen this before, but just down to earth. It's effortless. If it's effortful, it's probably not it. It's just an idea. It's effortless. And I get it. The mind is so used to creating this person into 10,000 different things, experiences. And so when we say something that's so effortless, the mind says, no, it's not. This is not the real teaching. I'm going to find a real teacher who's going to really give me the right stuff. No, this is really, it's this simple. So this presence that remains the same is you, is the final reality. There's nothing after that. There's no higher reality. And if you want to say and object with, there is levels of consciousness. In whose presence are levels of consciousness revealed? In my presence. I have been myself. Now I've been exposed to some consciousness raising experience, and that started, but what was there before it started? The revealer. I was there. What is there when the mind has gone into this some bliss mode? What's still there? What's revealing the mind's bliss? I am. And the bliss will definitely go away, guaranteed. Who's still there revealing the absence of that bliss which you mistook for? I found it. I got it. I'm in touch with it now. Who's still there? The same effortless I am. Now, this effortless I am, suppose you say, yep, I'm kind of connecting to what you're saying, Andre, this is fine, but so is my friend also connecting to this. And we're all connecting to this, suppose. But how do we prove that your I am is the exact same as the I am of a person from 5,000 years ago, or the I am of Jesus or Buddha or the most enlightened being you can think of? How do you prove that? Otherwise, there's going to be this doubt. No, you don't understand. The Buddha is behind me. He's really got it. I don't have what he has. I'm just a small individual, a nobody who lives in where? Netherlands, Germany, Australia. A small being. So as long as this doubt remains, you remain an individual. Reconciling the reality means Buddha has discovered I am. And that I am you're enjoying right now, right here. And thereby, the objection is sorted out. And that is, suppose you say, okay, so since childhood, my body and mind has changed so many times. Your body and mind has changed so many times. But there's something that remained throughout. I am. There's some being that hasn't changed. There's some continuity. There's some presence about you that has continued since childhood. Are you connecting with my words so far? Since you were a child, there was something about you that is exactly the same as now. A being, just a conscious being. Don't have to define it, just a ordinary conscious being. I get it. As a child, in the presence of that conscious being, the mind was, right, the childish mind, had the desires for girls and boys and toys. In the presence of this conscious being now, there's a mind also, but what kind of things are being revealed now as compared to back then? Very different kind of things. Why? Because the mind has evolved, but the revealer remained exactly the same. Therefore, the revealer, you say, I got it. But how do I prove that my revealer of experience is exactly the same as your revealer of experience? Well, suppose I give you a ball, improvise, and look at this. Now we have so many eyes, which are going to be social proof to say that this is, what color should this be now? What is this? Huh? Purple? What is this? Oh, see, that's not clear, so we need a clear color. We need to universally agree. Otherwise, it's going to break the example. Okay, so we can agree this is what? Oh, again, right? Green, okay? Let's go for green. And we go, all right, so you see, in the presence of my awareness, I'm revealing this to be green. And you're all in the presence of your awareness, you're revealing this to be green. Therefore, you see, we all have equal awareness. We have solved the problem. I'm glad you're shaking your head no. Is this a strong argument to prove that your awareness is exactly the same as mine? Because after all, we're both, see, if my awareness was yellow, I wouldn't see this as green. If your awareness was, orange, you wouldn't see this as green. The fact that we all see this as green implies that we're all available to reveal greenness. And now we're able to reveal blueness. That means, right, we all agree. Suppose I call this a bad argument. And I say, why? What would you say?
I'm colorblind.
Who said that? Ah, good. Suppose you were a dog. Dogs can only see yellow and blue. And a dog could talk. It would say, no, it's not. In other words, you're mixing senses, the range of senses for awareness. And not only that, but if someone was turned backwards and they were in the same room and they were looking at blue, then they would say, look, I know you, 30 of you or whatever are talking about this being green, but I don't see green. I'm looking at a red cup back there. Therefore, my awareness is not the same as yours. Because if it was the same as yours, I would see green. Bad argument. Okay, how about a stronger argument? We have the scriptures, the Upanishads. And for the longest time possible, the Upanishads have been speaking about consciousness or this revealing presence. And it has attracted thousands upon thousands of seekers, which are all relating somehow to what the Upanishads are saying about awareness. They don't understand what, but there's something pulling you like, wow, there's this reality, awareness, Brahman, Atma. What is this? So this means that we have some bigger proof now. We got more people, and after all, it's the scriptures, it's authoritative scriptures. Is this a good argument? Because look at this. Let me finish the argument here. Suppose if people didn't relate and everyone's awareness was different, this means you will need a different scripture for every single seeker. But the fact that millions of seekers, and there will continue to be millions of them, billions of them, if you look at it from in the future standpoint, will continue to relate to the same awareness. That means that we're all relating to the same reality. Otherwise, you will need a different scripture. It's like, what is this? I'm not awareness. I'm bugulugu. I relate to that. Therefore, give me bugulugu scriptures. But we're all relating to this equally. This is called a stronger argument. But, sad to say, we can break this logic down also. Would you like to try? How do you break this logic down? It is, see, now quietness, it's much harder, right?
To say something like, I don't believe in this purchase.
Super.
Nonsense.
Yeah, super. Okay, you see what he said? So he says, in other words, it depends upon your authority in the scriptures, in those particular scriptures. The moment you're somebody else, you say, what's this nonsense? It's just 10 million people who are ignorant of this Brahman consciousness stuff. We don't believe in that stuff. So now again, you've got a larger audience, but you've got also an even larger audience denying or discarding the whole thing. What else? Why else is this a poor argument? You can't read. Okay, good. You can't read. Good.
What? 6 schools of philosophy that they read the same scripture, but they make different conclusions.
Yeah, exactly. And they're all kind of authoritative in their own sense. Yeah. What about the big one? You can have a genuine seeker looking at the scriptures, and that seeker is coming with their own ideas of what is Brahman. So you can have 5 people all saying this is the ultimate reality, but all 5 of them have a different idea of what Brahman is. So on the surface, it looks like 10 million of us are agreeing, but 10 million of us have a different idea of consciousness and the final reality. That's why it is also a poor argument.
Another one is if you don't have the teacher to reveal the scriptures, wouldn't much,
Yeah.
they wouldn't tell you much about yourself.
Yeah.
It's just in itself.
You will preserve that idea, what I want this to be for me. And therefore, it is no standardization of what the scriptures are talking about. Now, what is the strongest, which has no stronger argument, for demonstrating how your awareness is exactly the same as mine? In fact, it's the only argument that we really have which is just non-contradictable. Would someone like to try? How is your awareness exactly the same as mine? How is that which reveals experiences from your standpoint exactly the same revealer that reveals experiences from this standpoint?
I think you have to be aware that everyone has his personal world, that everyone has his liking, dislikings, experiences, and that you have to be aware that it's not the same as my neighbor, what I see, what I feel, what I like, what I dislike. But the thing that reveals everything, that is the same.
Aware of likes and dislikes. I mean, that still depends on you knowing about awareness and likes and dislikes, and not a strong argument.
We are all I.
Hmm?
We are all I. You say I say I.
Yeah, but that doesn't prove that my eye is same as your eye. Because you can have a different idea about I, and I can have a different idea about my I.
I think maybe it has to do something to do with seeing the change when you use the glass and then the colors. I am able to see the change, and it's changing, and you too. Something.
Wow.
Something there.
90% there.
By following the scriptures over years and realizing who I am, I see that there's just one.
Okay, but how do you prove that to an ordinary person who's never, or not even interested in the scriptures, but has relative, right, interest in this?
Is it when you sleep, when we all sleep, and then we wake up, and then that's for everybody the same?
So that's in reference to the state. So everyone reveals the deep sleep state. This is true. Everyone reveals a deep sleep state, but it doesn't prove how the revealer that reveals deep sleep from your standpoint is the same revealer that reveals my deep sleep. Yes, they do reveal, but it doesn't prove that the revealers are exactly the same. Any more hands? Just try. Come, let's go.
Awareness has no attributes.
Say again?
Awareness has no attributes.
Okay, well, please expand upon this.
So if two things both have no attributes, so all the attributes are the same, they're identical.
Good. So Sapphire.
There's no way to distinguish between them.
Good. So Sapphire is saying, in fact, she's listened to many of my videos, right? So you're getting this from there.
Wouldn't it also mean that if there is one consciousness here, another consciousness there, then it includes that it's limited, because otherwise how can there be two?
Yeah, so it's exactly what Sapphire is saying. So what she's saying is that, see, if from your standpoint, consciousness doesn't take on any attributes, nothing sticks. And we said this, if it were to stick, you would be carrying that around. And if you were to take on some attribute, if you said your awareness is different from mine, I would have to be compelled to ask you, in what way is it different? And then you would be forced to tell me then, well, it's different. How is it different? What attribute would you like to give your awareness? And you say, well, it's intelligent. But intelligence is always in reference to your mind. It's in reference to, right, what you know while you're intelligent. Try saying that when you're 98. Equally, for me to say that my awareness is different from yours, I would have to define it. And I have to be specific. How is it different, Andre? Wow, it's different in a, I am expensive. I am expensive. In that sense, my consciousness is wider. It's wider than your consciousness. But wider is an idea of the mind, because wider is just kind of a, your wider is like this, my wider is like that. So the only way that you can show that your awareness is exactly the same as mine is by stating that your awareness never takes on attributes. It's always able to reveal new experiences. No experience gets stuck onto it. It never takes on something else. If it were to take on something else, you would see it even in deep sleep. And that exact same experience is for me also. Constantly there's one presence in whose presence new experiences are taking place. They're going away, replaced by new experiences. Like a cow. You see a cow, and then I say, imagine a cow right now. And you go, moo, okay, it's in my head. And then I say, okay, now imagine an elephant. Please do now. Imagine an elephant. Okay, cool. Now move that away, please. Imagine a mouse. Mouse. Move that away. Blank screen. Okay? When I said cow, move. The cow didn't stick onto the elephant. When I said elephant, move. You were fully available to reveal the mouse. They didn't come over each other. It didn't take on the attribute of the mouse or the elephant or the cow. It was free for you to reveal something new. It's free for me to reveal something new. In other words, from your standpoint, nothing gets stuck. If your awareness was stuck onto something, if some attribute was stuck onto your awareness, please tell me right now, what is it that attribute is? Just define it for me. Let me think. Let me access something in my mind to give a good argument. And yet there is a revealer of the mind going.
Nice experiment for this is also when you ask someone how old do you feel? What age do you report without having the age in mind, like a thought.
Yeah.
Nobody said I just feel my presence, There's no I can feel any age or
right. I haven't heard that.
I never felt like that.
Right.
I'm a child, if I'm 80,
right.
I don't feel 80, people say it's always this attribute, this presence.
Okay, I haven't thought of that. Right. So how old do you feel? Right. It's like, let me see how the mind's already accessing. What should I say? Cultural values, cultural expectations. Let me please them. It's just going to its own little thing. Yeah, just the fact that you're trying to access, right, find the right things to say, it means that you're trying to access an idea, and yet there is this presence that doesn't even relate to the age, doesn't even relate to some age. If you really were 85, how old do you feel? 85, like that, confidently. And yet we all take time. Let me kind of feel into that. Why would you want to feel into that if you were 85 truly? If your identity was 85, you would say it effortlessly, 85.
So this one a lot. I ask many times people about age.
Yeah.
You always get an answer. I don't feel like the.
Wow. Okay.
But it's the experience.
I used the same for the feeling. How did you feel when you were comfortable when you was young, 5-year-old, 10 years or so, and compare it to how you feel now, and it's always the same eye.
Okay. Anything else?
A practical question. Could anyone translate the word revealer for me?
Onthullen.
The onthullen.
Onthullen.
It's a person, eh? Revealer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Recognizer. Revealer. Recognizer. Yeah. Happy now? Good. Okay. Okay. RGB. You have white light, and white light reveals colors. Why? Because the white light is not red, is not green, is not blue. That's why white light is able to reveal different colors. If the light was red, could it reveal green? No, because it would be interfering with a color. Therefore, it could not reveal that color. So if it has an attribute, any attribute, it starts to interfere with all other attributes. And thereby, you cannot function anymore. Because everyone's saying, no, it's a tree. And you're like, no, that's an elephant. Okay? So this is the same principle. White light can reveal different colors. Why? Because it is not intrinsically any color. It's just ordinary light. In that same way, awareness can reveal new attributes, new experiences, new colors, new tastes, new pains and joys, because it is intrinsically free of all of them. I want to introduce us to something called Satya Mithya. And this is going to take the inquiry a little bit further, because I want to bring this, what is the relationship between your thought and awareness? Because where I'm going with all of this is I have to reconcile differences into one reality, into awareness. Because what the Upanishads say is that the final reality that I've just been talking about, that which reveals, is from which the entire universe comes. So this table, this wall, this body, this air you're breathing, the space, these sounds, all of these experiences right now are resting in awareness. They're arising out of awareness. And I have to show you, how does a wall right now, how is this awareness right now? I mean, I can kind of understand awareness is revealing, but what about the wall? Where's the question of the wall being awareness? So this is where I want to take us. But first of all, let me just revise what we've done so far. So we've seen that your mind and your senses are asadharana. That means from now to now, there's no true commonality. It's different in billions and billions of ways, under the microscope, under thoughts. As I said, the mind changes 60,000 times per day. So there's nothing common about either your senses, what they're reporting, and even the senses themselves. Look at this. When we were young, our eyes were sharp. And when we get older, the sight starts to change, starts to reduce, and therefore we need glasses. So not only is the sounds or the sights changing, but the sight itself is changing. And the mind is also changing. Therefore, where can you find commonalities here? Every year, as we get older and older and older, it's just so many changes have taken place. And yet you experience yourself as I am, I am, I am, I am. Never mind what the I am is revealing. I am sad, I am happy. Never mind that. The point is, there is one common presence that survives all of these uncommon phenomena happening to your life and to your body and to your experience. Do you experience yourself as a new entity every single moment, or one constant entity? One constant entity? Shake head. Yes, yes. And when do you experience this as a constant entity? Now? Do you experience yourself changing 10 million times now? Or is it just one, like I am, I'm here? Was that, if it's true now, and now is nothing but yes, just a moment ago, and future is also now, right? You understand? Then how many of those do I have to put together for my I am to be something that is different, something that is, outside of myself? How many of those I have to stitch together for me to be some different person, considering right now I am revealing? In other words, there was never a time when you were not revealing, But what were you revealing? A different body and a different mind, a different person. This is called rebirth. Who was revealing a different person? The very I am that is revealing this person. But what's different that's being revealed? A person with different ideas, different hair, different eyes, different features, different desires, different likes, different aversions, different hates, different loves, different values. In the presence of what is that being recognized? In the presence of I am. It can never be different. Now, is that I am different from my I am? It doesn't have attributes. What doesn't have attributes? Your I am and my I am. However, so far we have pointed out two categories: asadharana, uncommon, and sadharana, common. And we have said that it kind of seems that there are two different things, right? Oh, I am the revealer, and everything else is being revealed. Everything else is an object. So now it seems like we've created a split between the revealer and the world. Like the world is, one thing, and the revealer is another thing. Like what about rocks, and what about everything else? So this means that whatever we've taken out as not revealer, as not I, as not self, we have to reclaim that back and attach a certain understanding to it, which is called mithya. So what is mithya? Mithya means it enjoys a dependent reality on awareness. For example, before I speak about what is the relationship between awareness and the world, which I will do later, I want to just make it more personal now, between you, the revealer, and your thoughts. So it's more closer to us. What is the relationship between you, the revealer, that which reveals, and a thought that is being revealed? The relationship is what we call satya mithya. Now, what is satya mithya? Mithya means something that depends on something else. And satyam means it is independent of itself. That means it depends on nothing else. It is self-depending. For example, I wish we had a wooden table. Okay, so we will take, we can all see this brown chair. Yeah, brown chair. Okay, cool. So we'll use this. So what's the relationship between your thought and awareness? It is like the relationship between this wood and this chair. Now, this wood and chair, they seem like two different things, don't they? And yet, this wood is totally independent of the chair, and the chair's existence entirely depends upon the wood. Because if I take the wood out, do you have the chair? If I take the wood out, do you have the chair? No. If I take the chair out, do you have the wood? Now, how would you take the chair out? Someone give me a hammer. Boom, boom. Now the chair is no more. In other words, I've cut the four legs off, and now I no longer call it a chair. In other words, and now I can make a boat out of it. So now we have a new relationship. What's the relationship between a boat and wood? Same thing. Satya mithya. The boat has no existence without the wood. Wherever I see the boat, that's exactly where the wood is. The wood pervading the entire boundaries of the boat. There is not one place where I cannot find the wood. All throughout the boat, wood is. At the edges of the boat, the wood is there. On the front of the boat, the wood is there. Is there one place where I cannot find the wood in that boat? The entire being, the content of the boat rests and depends upon the wood. Now again, we take a bigger hammer and we slice and dice that boat and we create a person figure, a person figure, maybe like this one. This is not wood. This is wood, right? Okay. We make a Buddha. And now this Buddha is a very smart fella and he understands this. He says, you know, I appear as this person, like people call me Buddha. Why do they call me Buddha? Because I've recognized something that an ordinary person is yet to recognize. I've recognized that despite my appearance, looking like a man, looking like this kind of a body, having these thoughts, that which pervades the entirety of me is the content of me, which is the very content of that person also made out of wood, who doesn't see themselves as having a reality which is exactly the same between themselves and Buddha. Because where is their focus? On the form. The ordinary person's focus is on the form. Therefore, to them, they are as good as different from this other wooden statue called Buddha. So why is Buddha called Buddha? Because the Buddha has cognitively understood wherever there is form, wherever there is that which is looking like a head, looking like a thought, looking like a leg, that's exactly where the substrate, the content, the substance is. Now suppose the Buddha goes to some place and is trying to meditate and look for the wood, and is trying to access the wood, this reality which the whole universe is made of, suppose the wood. Will Buddha ever find it? Why not?
It's not an object, it's him.
It's not an object. Why else would Buddha not find it if he's looking for that which he already is?
Because you need a form to identify something.
In other words, he's identified with the form. He's looking at this wood as something that is different from him. And yet, wherever he goes, he is carrying the reality with him, as her. So the more I look for the final reality, the farther away I get from the reality. This is the great irony. The more I understand that I can never come out of the only reality that is obtaining as different forms, the more I understand there is nowhere to go, nowhere to search. Because the very searcher is made out of the very content which is being sought. Therefore, the relationship between the thought and awareness is just like between wood and this chair. Wherever there is thought, that's exactly where the content of that thought is, which is I am, I am, I am. For example, right now, I want you to imagine a cow. Again, moo in your mind. And I want you to start to look at different parts of that cow, like the head. Look at the head with your imagination. What is there besides the head? I am. Now look at the legs. What is there besides the legs? I am. Now look at the tail of the cow. What fills up that tail of the cow? What's filling that up? What is giving it its existence? I am. Can you not find I am somewhere in that cow? In your mental thought. Look at that cow. Where are you not in that cow? Look underneath the cow. Above the cow. In front of the cow. Inside the cow's nose. On top of the cow. Where can you find yourself not? Wherever you look at your thought, what is there? Wherever there is mithya, wherever there is mithya, that's exactly where Satyam is, as I am, as awareness. And this awareness is that which lights up both a saintly mind, saintly thoughts, and criminal thoughts. one awareness lighting up the mind and the thoughts and filling up and giving content and existence to the thoughts of a criminal, someone that is doing something that is wrong. And the same awareness is giving existence to the thoughts of a saint. And yet remains free of saintly thoughts and criminal thoughts. If awareness became saintly, what would happen? If awareness became criminal, what would happen? No saints. And we've just shown you that your awareness is exactly the same as mine. Therefore, awareness illumining the criminal's mind, it doesn't take on the attributes of those thoughts. And therefore, I also don't take the attributes of those thoughts. Otherwise, if it did, instantaneously across the world, we will all be entertaining thoughts of robbing a bank. Because we already shown you there's only one awareness. So if nothing sticks to awareness, to your awareness from the standpoint of the saint, then nothing sticks to your awareness from the standpoint of the criminal either. And therefore you remain free. One awareness remains free to light up and continue lighting up and continue revealing your thoughts. And that same you, that same I, remains free to continue revealing the thoughts of a saint. In the past, the present, and the future. One awareness pervading all minds right now. Revealing what? Revealing the thoughts belonging to your mind, to my mind. And what is the relationship between that awareness and your thoughts? Wherever there is mind, wherever there is thought, that's exactly where I am. Which thought is outside of you? In other words, all thoughts depend upon me, the awareful being. In other words, every thought being mithya, mithya has no reality apart from awareness. And that is the same for you, that is equally the same for me. Therefore, from your standpoint, your thoughts, your mind depends on the very same awareness that I enjoy right now. And my mind depends upon the very same awareness that you are enjoying right now. It's like bodies and minds just walking, walking in one field of awareness. It's like, what do you mean? I'm over here, I'm not over there. I'm here. But in reality, you're everywhere. But then why does it feel like I'm over here and not over there? We call this ahamkara. It's meant to individuate your experience over here and not over there. Otherwise, you couldn't function. But in reality, what we actually think is that I am only here when I literally move myself here. Now I'm here. But look at this. This is such an amazing experiment you can do. This I am that's here now is exactly the same the I am that's here now. The I am that's here now is exactly the same I am that's over there. But it feels like I am is being contained in this body because of ahamkara. And yet, I am is already waiting over there. Waiting over here. But only when the body moves, it feels like, you see, I am now here. So this is how you get kind of fooled that you're in this body. In fact, you're meant to experience yourself into one body. Otherwise, you couldn't function if you felt like you were everywhere. So there's nothing wrong with this. It's not like a wise person experiences themselves everywhere. They're meant to experience themselves only here. But cognitively, you understand, I am not only here, I am right now revealing your thoughts. This I, the revealer, is revealing your thoughts. The revealer will be revealing the thoughts of a person born in the future and has been revealing thoughts of those in the past. And right now, it just happens to be revealing the thoughts of this person who happens to be right here now, talking. Let us continue this inquiry by revising. And 2 questions were posed. And the first question was, is there a presence because of which your prana, senses, and your mind does its job? Is there a presence because of which your prana, senses, and mind does its job? The answer is? The answer is yes. Okay. And then, what is the nature of this presence? And then we said the nature is twofold. First of all, you experience hundreds of sounds, hundreds of sights. Everyone does. There's not one person who doesn't. And yet none of them stick onto you. You always say something always available to receive a new sound, a new uncommon sight, a new uncommon taste. And secondly, we said this presence is attributeless. Again, if it were to take on an attribute, you would then define that attribute. You would have to define that attribute. You would be expected to define it. And you'll be saying, well, my awareness is whatever. And then I would say it's not, because that's a thought. You have to know the English language to define it, number one. If you didn't know the language, you couldn't even define it. But what would still be there if you didn't know the language? Me, the presence who's revealing a mind that doesn't know how to speak. What I want to do now is show us a little bit more, what does attribute and attributeless mean? Because so far we've been speaking about attributeless, and maybe you've kind of got it, right? But let's go deeper into the inquiry and explicitly point out, what do I mean by attribute? And why do I want to do this? To show you that there are only 3 categories that you can put all attributes under. And we will see that awareness cannot be put under any of those attributes using logic. These are Sanskrit words, and it is a Sanskrit tradition, so therefore I'm going to use them. The first is called, the first form of attribute is called Sajatiya Bheda. Okay, Sajatiya Bheda. So this means that, for example, you have a group. For example, one group, human species group, right? Or one group called tree group. So tree has many different types of trees, like this tree and like that tree. Okay? So there are trees, but they're different kind of tree. One's an oak tree, one is a mango tree. So this means that within tree group, you can have many kinds of different trees. Within human species, you can have Asians, you can have Africans, you can have Indians, you can have Caucasians. Okay, but they're all human species. Okay. The second kind of group is called Vijatiya Bheda. Vijatiya Bheda. So Vijatiya Bheda is different kind of groups. So for example, tree group and animal group. Okay? So in other words, what defines the difference between trees and animals? Attributes. And a lot more attributes than defines an oak tree from a mango tree. You see this? So yes, what defines the differences there? Attributes. But a lot less attributes than between trees and animals. Or between insects and fish, or humans and animals or something. Okay? So again, what defines the attributes? Well, what defines the differences? A lot of attributes, a lot more attributes than here. Either way, there are attributes. And then finally we have Vijatiya and then Swagata. Swagata Bheda. So within every one component, there are parts. For example, the human heart right? The human being is made up of human heart plus brain, right? Plus arm plus etc. Or you take an atom. What is an atom made of? Atom is made of? Yeah, electron, proton, neutron, which makes up the atomic nucleus. And then you take the electron, right, or proton, or the neutron. What makes that up? You may say quarks, for example. So atom itself, right, is made up of smaller parts. So what determines the difference between an electron, which is the orbit around the atom, what determines that compared to another part within it, which is called a proton? Attributes. An electron is different from a proton. And not only that, but the atom is further made of quarks. Okay, so you can keep on kind of reducing it. But either way, any part that you use in this creation, your leg, your arm, your thought, suppose we have a thought. How many things is your thought made of? Depends on what your thought is, right? If you have a thought of being at the beach, how many parts would that be made of? The sun. Okay, we've got a little sun. Now, where did you learn the sun from? You learned the sun from the world. You learned the sun from attributes belonging to the world. So those attributes got passed into your mind. What else makes up a thought? Suppose there's someone that you have an argument with. What makes that thought up? Voice, their voice, right? Attribute of their voice. What else makes that up? The intensity, attribute of intensity. What else makes that thought up? Their distinct face. So put a little face there. Okay? So all three categories are attributes. You understand this so far? Okay. So why did I just perform this inquiry? To show you that when I speak attributes under which you can put the entire world, you say then, under what can I put the entire world? I can put them under these three categories. I can put the sun in one of these categories. I can put an atom, because the sun, for example, is made up of what? Helium and nitrogen, right? So that too is Swagata Bheda. What about space and time? We will see where space and time belongs here. Okay? Even space and time you can put into this category. Initially, I started by saying that anything in this universe which can be objectified, the whole asadharana category, uncommons, can be put here. But awareness, you can't put here. So now you're going to ask, how so? Can you show me? How can I not put awareness here? Well, suppose you go Sajatiya Bheda, right? Let's take human beings, for example. That would mean that Asian awareness is different to black man awareness, African awareness. Or African awareness, that means the awareness belonging to an African man is different from awareness belonging to a Caucasian man. Awareness belonging to, and I tell you, this has been seen before in this world, awareness belonging to a man is a lot more sophisticated than awareness belonging to a woman. See this? No. What is man and woman? They're in reference to attributes of the physical body, in reference to attributes of and belonging to the mind. What about black man and Asian man awareness being different? No, because black and Asian is in reference to skin color, not in reference to awareness. Now, what about Vijatiya Bheda? Suppose we take human beings, right, two different categories, human beings and animals. So that's like saying that awareness of a human being is more sophisticated than awareness of a dog or a snake. Is this true? Okay, well, I don't know. Okay, why not? Why is your awareness exactly the same as the awareness of a spider?
Because there's no dog awareness compared to a snake awareness or a human being awareness.
because dog and human being is in reference to the body. Their body is asadharana, it's changing, it's modifying, and your body, it's different, we get that, but it's also changing, modifying. And we've got swagata bheda, that means within one awareness, you have levels of awareness, levels of consciousness. You've got entire retreats being held called Let's Explore Levels of Consciousness. In other words, swagata bheda would mean that there are different kinds of awarenesses. That waking awareness is different from dream awareness, or nirvikalpa samadhi awareness is different from waking awareness. Is that true? No, why not?
Because it's changeless.
It's changeless, both in the...
Sorry?
It's changeless, okay?
Yeah, it's changeless, and always, and that means always the same.
Good. In other words, it's no matter what state you place upon it, the substratum remains exactly the same. So this is why you're able to be aware equally of your dream and your waking state. It's not like there's two different people. You say, yeah, I dreamt. Who was there revealing that dream? I was there revealing that dream. It's my dream. Now you say, I'm here. I'm revealing this waking kind of thing, going on in state. I'm revealing both. Nirvikalpa samadhi, as we explained in the first session. Nirvikalpa samadhi is just the absence of thoughts, absence of mind, absence of these three categories. But it doesn't touch the very attributeless awareness, remains exactly the same. Because it's always pure, it's always attributeless. So what are you going to possibly gain in meditation? Tell me. All you're going to gain in meditation, ironically, is another attribute. Attribute that feels blissful, that feels wide, got non-dual bliss now. It's an attribute because it starts in time. It wasn't there just a moment ago. And yet, who was there a moment ago? The revealer was there a moment ago. The revealer revealing, recognizing the mind striving so hard to attain some level of consciousness. And then recognizing or revealing the mind getting so frustrated it gives up. And then tomorrow, recognizing or lighting up the mind of finally attaining some kind of a special state, which is lovely. But the revealer is still attributeless. It started out attributeless, it remained throughout attributeless, and when the state has gone, it continues being attributeless, revealing freshly available to new experiences to come and go.
Can you change the words revealer and witness? I mean, is it the same?
Yeah, you can use these words. We have to just explicitly state them. So the witness, that means the unchanging witness, that which is always recognizing, lighting up, showing whatever is coming in the light of that witness. So the witness is what we say Atma. I am. Okay, it's just another name for the exact same reality. Yeah. So far, we have analyzed that you can put, if you just go through an analysis a little bit through this, you will see that you can put absolutely anything into these categories. And I will go more through them with us. For now, I want to bring the question of space and time, because space and time are very unique. They're kind of like, they have no attributes. Let's just take space. It has no attributes. It just allows things to be filled up, right? It just allows things to, it accommodates things. But so does awareness accommodate things. It just accommodates your thoughts. And as we will see soon, it accommodates the whole universe. So you may kind of think, wow, isn't awareness also one of these, right? Like, which category is awareness now? And I'll show you what I mean by this. So let me just start the analysis now. So the question is, what's the difference, if any, between space and awareness? So let's just analyze space for a moment. Is space Sajatiya Bheda? Remember, Sajatiya Bheda means it's within the same category, but there's differences within that category. So this means there has to be a different kind of space. Okay, what about dream space? Is dream space different from waking space? I'm glad you're shaking your head no, but why? Why are they actually not different? We're just sticking with space now. Awareness is put aside.
Space accommodates both.
Accommodates both of them, okay. So in other words, space is exactly the same, although it can be perceived differently. The fact that I can perceive it differently doesn't make it different. A common example, my personal one, is we had a house that we built, and I was 5, and this house, when you're young, it's huge, right? Every room is huge. The space in the room is vast. And I visited this house when I was like 25, and I thought this is like a closet, it's hardly any space in here. So the space hasn't changed, but only my perception of it has. Same thing in your dream. It may feel like it's a different kind of space, but it's actually it's just one space perceived differently. Okay? Now, is space Swagata Bheda? Swagata Bheda. That means it's made up of parts. No. Okay. Like where is the edge between one part of space and another? Or suppose we have a living room, right? A house. Is bedroom space different from bathroom space? Different from dining room space? Is it different? So then why do we call it dining room space versus bedroom space? Mm-hmm.
Because of the use and the function of the space.
Okay, in reference to what do we say dining room space and bathroom space? In reference to the attributes of the walls, in reference to the what the room is intended for. But is it in reference to the space? No. So even though we kind of call it different space, it's one space, but it's not in reference to space, in reference to the walls. Okay. So what is space then? Is it Vijatiya Bheda? Remember Vijatiya, before you answer, Vijatiya Bheda means it is one group different from another group. So is space Vijatiya Bheda? Remember, okay, Vijatiya Bheda means I can put anything here. I can put space, I can put the principle of space here. It's different from, for example, chair. Okay? Is space different from chair? Huh? Of course it is. Is space the chair? Is space the fire? No. Therefore, space is Vijatiya Bheda. Why is space Vijatiya Bheda? Because space is unlike something else. An animal is unlike a human. A human is unlike a stone. A stone is unlike water. Space is unlike anything that it accommodates. In other words, yes, space does accommodate, but it is unlike what it accommodates. Make sense? Therefore, it is Vijatiya Bheda. Which category is time? Is time Sajatiya Bheda? Sajatiya Bheda means there are two types of time. There is different galaxy time and there is this galaxy time. There is dream time and there is waking space time. Waking state time. Time is time. How it's perceived is different. What is time? Time is that which just facilitates things to evolve. It lets things change. things are changing in galaxy number 1, whatever galaxy that is, things are changing here. There's no difference. Time lets change happen here, time lets change happen in your dream. There is no second time. It may be perceived differently. For example, you're dating someone at the bus station, and you're enjoying your conversation for 5 minutes. And how long does that last? Like 1 second, 5 seconds. And there is someone who needs to desperately show up at work or else they'll be fired. For them, time of 5 minutes is, oh yeah, a long time. Time is time. How it's perceived based on the mind, based on the circumstances is different. Therefore, time is not Sajatiya Bheda, because there's no second time. However, it is perceived differently, but it doesn't make time different. Is time Swagata Bheda? That means time is made up of kind of parts. Time is made up. What parts are you talking about? Time just facilitates change to happen. What parts are you talking about? Is time Vijatiya Bheda? Okay, Shan is shaking head. Enlighten us. Yeah. In other words, time is different from this chair. Okay? It facilitates the chair to evolve, but it's not the chair. Therefore, space and time is Vijatiya Bheda. But this brings an objection now. If space and time is Vijatiya Bheda, because it is unlike anything else, okay? Time is unlike anything else, and it's attributeless. Space is like anything else, and it's attributeless. Awareness, isn't awareness unlike anything else? This is not awareness, this is kind of like, this is a pot. Awareness is that which shines, that illumines, that reveals. Isn't awareness also unlike anything? This is an objection you can easily throw at me. Therefore, isn't awareness Vijatiya Bheda? Why not?
Because it's all there is. There's no other category.
Yeah. Because of awareness, the rest exists.
Because?
Of awareness, time and space exist.
So what you're saying is that it's not Vijatiya Bheda because awareness is the content of everything. It is not unlike everything. Everything depends on awareness for its existence. It is a Satya-Mithya relationship. So you cannot say that awareness is unlike everything, that the world is unlike awareness. In other words, if I reject the world, I am rejecting awareness, because we already did a little experiment, which we will expand upon now. Wherever there is mithya, that's exactly where satyam is. So if I reject one thing that depends upon awareness, wherever there is mithya, wherever there is a Buddha statue, that's exactly where wood is. If the Buddha rejects one single finger made out of wood, the Buddha has rejected the entire wood across the entire universe. The only way to make awareness Vijatiya Bheda is by imagining it. It is a blissful experience, and therefore I want to seek it out. If you imagine awareness, that is something away from you, only then it becomes unlike anything. But awareness is not subject to your imagination. Awareness is the content of the universe. So the universe is just appearance of awareness. Now you say, how is this possible? How does this world come out of awareness? This is all solid matter. Where's the connection? And I guess we will do this next session. But I just want to close. So the point of this analysis, again, it's not for intellectual arguments. It's just to show you that you cannot put awareness under any of these three categories. And everything else can be put under these three categories. And space and time slightly unique can only be put under Vijatiya Bheda, whereas everything else can be put into all three categories. For example, atom is Sajatiya Bheda. Why? Because you got gold atom and carbon atom. So they're same category, same group. That's what Sajatiya means, same group. You can have atom under Vijatiya Bheda. Why? Because group of atoms is different from group of molecules, different groups. You can put atom under Swagata Bheda. Why? Because atom is made up of parts, proton, electron. Therefore, anything, you apply the same logic to anything. In fact, everything is made out of atoms anyway. Therefore, it will all fit under these three categories. The only two realities that are slightly unique are space and time, which can also be put under these three categories, but only under Vijatiya Bheda. Then the objection comes, then if they're unlike everything else, then isn't awareness unlike everything else also? Therefore, isn't awareness Vijatiya Bheda? The answer is no, because when it comes to awareness, it is the content of space, of time, of objects, of five elements, of everything. Therefore, there is no question of awareness being unlike everything else. Okay. And next session, we will then investigate how is it that the whole universe is resolving into awareness. And this will be a next inquiry to build on. Purnamadav, Purnamidam, Purnat, Purnamudachyate, Purnasya, Purnamadaya, Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.